So we are football fans, we are soccer fans. That's why we convene every Saturday morning from 2:30 till 4 o'clock to talk world football matters. This morning it's America, North and South. Tim Vickery is in Rio to answer your questions and to take your comments on football in South America. And Sean Wheelock is in Kansas to take care of any questions and comments you might have on Major League Soccer. Gentlemen, are you ready for kickoff?
More than ever.
Absolutely, Dotun.
Well, let's go then. And Neil in Penrith, good morning.
Good morning, Dotun. Our question for Tim. He said about a fortnight ago that approximately 1,000, I think it was Brazilians, came across to Europe to play European football. I'm just wondering how many sort of returned because they couldn't make a living at playing football in South America.
Yeah, the total this year was 981 Brazilians leaving Brazil. So that's not just to Europe; they go everywhere. A lot go to the Arab world as well. A lot go to Asia, Japan, South Korea. So it's 981 players leaving Brazilian football. Coming back this year, 444 players who were coming back either because it didn't work out, the move didn't work out in Europe, or because they're kind of winding their career down. They've come to the end of their contract in Europe or wherever and just want to wind their career down in Brazilian football, or simply, and sometimes it happens, they get a better offer. They're perhaps with a minor club in say France, and then one of the big Brazilian clubs comes in for them, and that's an excellent shop window to perhaps get in. If they're playing for say the likes of São Paulo, that's an excellent shop window to maybe get into the Brazilian national team and then move back to Europe to a bigger club. So they come back for a number of reasons, but the net loss of Brazilian football is over 500 players. Over 500 players more leave than come back.
Just a supplementary question, Tim. How many actually do make it to the top grade?
Well, of all the people who try...
Hold down a regular place in the first team, big club sort of thing.
They're always a gamble, these moves, always a gamble. But often that they work out. There are people scoring goals in the Champions League and in the UEFA Cup.
I hear them all, yes.
And some of these people are complete unknowns in Brazilian football, never did anything, never played for anyone big, and it's really worked out for them. There's a terrific case at the moment in Holland. Alfonso Alves is the big centre forward with Heerenveen, a small club in Holland, but he's scoring goal after he got 7 in one game a couple of weeks ago. And he left Brazilian football after having scored the grand total of, wait for it, 1 goal, went off to Sweden, did well in Sweden, got a transfer from Sweden to Heerenveen, has scored more goals as a percentage with Heerenveen, a relatively minor club, than did either Romario or Ronaldo when they were playing for PSV. And on the back of that, he's now in the Brazilian squad and could well be in the Premiership very soon. So that's a move that really did work out for him. Obviously, there are a number of sob stories when they go abroad, and sometimes they're not paid everything that was combined, or sometimes they just fail to adapt. One thing that often the Brazilian players will find it very hard to adapt to is the food, especially, and this will come as a surprise to lots of people who don't know the country, especially if the food is in any way spicy. In many parts of Brazil, there's just that the food is very bland indeed. So the players who go to the Arab world, they really suffer with the spicy food. And when the national team were in South Korea for the World Cup in 2002, there was one line in English that they all learnt, and that was to say to the waiter, "No hot sauce, please." So little things like that can have a huge effect, and sometimes they find it very difficult to adapt. So it works wonderfully well for some, and it doesn't work for others.
Yeah, just one more quick question, Tim, if I may. You're often referring to some of the South Americans as they should stay over there another year. Is that because they haven't reached the capability of what they've reached, or they're still up and coming?
Yeah, they're still up and coming. It's almost like you miss a flight of stairs. You try and jump 5 stairs in one go. Because players are moving to Europe now with something like 30, 40 first-team games behind them, and it's just too soon. They're not ready for it. They're not ready for it as footballers, and often they're not ready for it as human beings either. It just comes too soon for them. I saw that Valdano, who was in Argentina's 86 World Cup squad, and has had many administrative positions, and being a coach as well of Real Madrid. He's a real intellectual of the Argentinian game. He was saying the other day that no player with less than 100 games in Argentinian football or Brazilian football or whatever should move across to Europe. Obviously, there are some who are just, and for whatever reason, they're just wonderfully talented or wonderfully adaptable. There are some for whom that doesn't apply. They can come after a handful of games and still make a success of it. But as a general rule, I think Valdano's guideline of 100 games, I think it's probably fairly suitable.
Neil, thanks a lot for the call. Barney in Halesworth in Suffolk, good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead, sir.
Hello.
Go ahead, what's your question?
Oh, I was wondering, we have a European League, we have Premiership. In years to come, do you think we'd have a World League where we could play maybe once a month and have, 3 points for goals scored away?
Sure, that's kind of what you're talking about, the prospect of a English team perhaps playing in the US or on the North American continent.
You know, as unthinkable as that seems, think about if this were 1955 and you're talking about football now in 2007. Just think about something as simple as putting the shirt sponsors on. That would have been unthinkable. That was even unthinkable in the early 1970s, and yet here we are with that. Think about the naming rights of the football grounds and all of the old grounds and the post-Taylor restrictions, everything being put into place in the game. I really can see that coming. It starts and it stops with FIFA. If FIFA decides to relax their regulations, if they want to open the borders, if they want to create a super league, I could certainly see it happening. And I don't think there's going to be loads of cities in America that would be invited, but if you had a super European stroke UK league, I could easily see New York being invited. Here's the irony with New York. New York Red Bulls, their side with Juan Pablo Angel, average 16,500 per match. If they had a Premiership side, they would sell out 77,000 at Giants Stadium. There are so many football fans, first-generation, newly arrived Americans, who just aren't interested in Major League Soccer. For whatever reason, they don't find New York Red Bull's style of football attractive. But if you put a Premiership side, any Premiership side, put Derby County in there, and they would be absolutely queuing up around the block to get a ticket for that. Premiership football in many parts of the United States is far and away more popular than Major League Soccer, more than any other football league in the world.
Barney, can you see it happening yourself?
No, myself I can't really see it out, purely because I don't think that America is quite ready for it at the moment yet.
Barney, I agree with you. I don't think America's quite ready for it either, but I'm projecting, again, 20, 25 years, maybe 40 years in the future. I really can see this revolution in football coming. Again, it's FIFA, and it's going to be FIFA deciding that they want to chase the money in that. I mean, slowly you have precedents that are starting. For instance, the American top-flight Major League Soccer has a side in Canada. They have Toronto FC, and they'll probably add a side in Vancouver in the next 5 years. That's something that really is against the FIFA restrictions about going into two nations. The American Second Division actually has sides in Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory, but it has separate FIFA membership, the United States and Canada. I think if you saw the creation of, say, a European Super League or even a not-so-Super League, say the Dutch Eredivisie got together with the top flights of Norway and Belgium, for instance, that I think would be the first proverbial domino to fall, and then it would just be a matter of time. I don't think it's something that's going to happen in the next couple of years. I think it could happen in the next couple of generations. In fact, I feel pretty confident it will.
Do you think that clubs will have to break away from FIFA to achieve that?
I think this will be fully supported by FIFA. I could see something where FIFA would try to essentially pick the top sides in each of the major leagues and create some sort of superstructure. If you look at where the Champions League is, the Champions League is almost the forerunner possibly to that. If you had the biggest sides, and it wasn't just dominated by one or two national leagues, but the biggest sides from around Europe, and then maybe you say, well, why not put a side in Rio? Why not put a side in Mexico City? Why not put a side in New York? You have to think, when football began developing in the professional game in the 1880s and 1890s, just the mode of transportation, and you think about it, it would be a shorter flight in terms of time to fly from New York to London to play a match than to fly from New York to Los Angeles. And I think that really puts things in perspective.
Barney, thanks a lot for the call. And just on this note, and thanks to all your emails that we get from the United States. Much appreciate them. This one is from Andrew in Mystic, Connecticut, who says, I can tell you for a fact that soccer, particularly British soccer, is growing in popularity. I'm continually seeing more replica kits in the sporting goods chains that I work at. And personally, personally, I support Manchester United after seeing their magic rebroadcasted on a Yankees-owned channel about 4 years ago. Without any doubt, a Premier League game played over here would sell out at least 4 times over. We love the Premiership way more than the MLS because of the sheer passion and class of the players and supporters. It has a physicality and pace the American market would need, and I would bet my bank account that in 10 years, when I'm 32, there will be interleague options and transatlantic teams. It can only grow. We love it. It says, not everybody agrees with that. James in Newcastle says, I'm sorry, but I've never heard such a ridiculous statement. There will never be an English Premiership team based abroad. The only reason we allow some Welsh clubs in is based because of the British Union, and they are geographically compatible with playing in our league. On a final note, with all the hype around the Major League Soccer, with all the hype around it, MLS is, in my opinion, unjustified. The hype around MLS is unjustified. The Australian A-League is already far superior. He says Major League Soccer may not be conference football, but it's certainly no better than League Two. Major League Soccer is really of a very poor standard, and on a bad day can be confused with Sunday League. And I take it, of course, that you disagree with that, Sean.
Yeah, I disagree with that vehemently. I think that the Australian A-League is very, very close in the standard of play. It's not vastly superior. I can make that in a fairly knowledgeable statement because we get a 1-hour highlights program on it. I really like the style of football there. But no, I don't think it's vastly superior. And the same Major League Soccer is Sunday League. I think that denigrates some of the professionals. For instance, the United States, which has been in every World Cup since 1990, the core of the U.S. squad plays in Major League Soccer. That's not Sunday League. I don't think Juan Pablo Angel is Sunday League, or Cuauhtemoc Blanco, or Palawan Chope, or Claudio Reyna, the former United States captain, or Freddie Adu, who's now with Benfica. No, it's not the Premiership. It seems to me that people on one end either want to say that Major League Soccer is as good as the Premiership, which hurts its credibility on those sorts of statements, or people on the other end want to say that it's League Two or it's Sunday League or it's conference. That hurts the credibility. Again, I would say that it falls somewhere between the lower tiers of the Championship and the upper levels of League One, and I think that's very fair.
Although one text says if Juan Pablo Angel can shine in Major League Soccer, it shows how poor the standard is. He was garbage in the Premiership. I believe he scored 6 in one match in Major League Soccer. That beats his Premiership tally, according to our texter.
No, he did not score 6 in one match.
Okay. Andrew in Blackheath. You know QPR have got a hard game ahead of them tomorrow, or later on today.
Good morning, Dotun.
Hi, you all right, mate?
I'm fine, thank my friend, very well. Better do better than they did in the last game.
Well, let's hope so. I know that was dreadful.
Now, Dotun, in fact, I've got a little bit of news for you, and then later for Sean, concerning a player at Charlton, an American player. But first of all, I've got a question for Tim.
Go ahead.
Tim, last week you briefly mentioned when you were talking about Riquelme, who's had a quarrel with Villarreal and is gone to Brazil, and you said that he said to the team there, look, pay me for 2 years at European rates, and I'll play a third season free. And you said they can't afford to pay him European rates. So my question is, how do the clubs, the big clubs in, say, Argentina and Brazil, pay their top players compared with England, Italy, Spain? In England, I've worked out, would you believe, that John Terry earns in 10 days what our Prime Minister earns in a year. And that's obscene. That is absolutely obscene, isn't it? You know,
so some people would say that was justified.
God, yeah, I agree, but I say any Prime Minister, you know. So, you know, what is the top rate say that they pay in say, Brazil and Argentina compared with our leagues here?
Well, the president of Boca Juniors, Mauricio Macri, is also now the mayor of Buenos Aires, and it's him who they had Riquelme on loan earlier on this year. They'd love to have him back. They're still negotiating a way to find a way. But Macri is on record as saying about this very Riquelme case, about saying that the differential Europe to South America in terms of wages can be 10 to 1. So, and he's saying that you just can't, even if you can find the money to pay this player 10 times what the next in line is getting, it destroys the harmony in the dressing room.
Yes, of course.
So, for both economic reasons and for reasons of dressing room harmony, they're very Boca, who are a well-managed club, are very, very reluctant to do it. I would say there's a handful, and Brazil pays more than anyone else in in South America. And there's just a handful, very, very few players who might be on 200,000 reais a month, which divide that by just under 4. So that's
5,000, yeah.
£45,000 a month would be just a very, very a handful of players, and the vast majority are on way less than half of that. So you can just compare that with what John Terry gets, and you can see that there's a huge chasm between what you get in South America and what you get in Europe. Hence the fact that 99 out of 100 South American players want to go to Europe.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for that. That's very, very comprehensive. Now, Sean and Dotun, the American centre-half, Corey Gibbs, I've mentioned him to you before.
Absolutely.
He has played a full 90 minutes in a Charlton reserve game, very nearly fit to play for the first team, and blow me, in the next game, he was tackled and broke 3 metatarsals. And he's out again for I don't know how long. What bad luck, Sean.
This is just continual with Corey Gibbs. I think he is the world's oldest 27-year-old. His body probably feels like he's about 127. Again, this is
told us that before we bought him.
But
we
he is
don't
still,
need him now.
but the sad thing is that Corey Gibbs could step in. He could be first choice for Charlton. And if Charlton finds itself back in the Premiership next year, he could step in and be first choice in the Premiership. That's how good a footballer he is. Again, the fact that he's only 27, I give him a lot of faith and a lot of hope that he can fight his way back into playing first-team football. He can salvage what should have been a brilliant career, and right now has been a career of unrealized potential through no fault of his own, just simply through injury after injury after injury. I know we've talked about this on the program, but it bears repeating. Corey Gibbs was selected to be part of America's squad at last summer's World Cup, and America played 3 matches, 3 friendlies in the United States as a send-off, and in the second one, Corey Gibbs injured his knee and he was removed from the squad. That right there sums up the career of Corey Gibbs. He's been in Germany, he's been in Holland, he's been in American Major League Soccer, he's been in England, and he has never been fully match fit. He always has injuries.
Thanks very much, Sean. Don't forget, Dotun, if you want to have a good seat again at the Valley, just let me know and I can arrange it.
I really appreciate it, Andrew. You know you'll be hearing from me. Hey, let me introduce you to an old friend that we haven't seen for a while or heard from for a while. Max in Doncaster, good morning.
Good morning, Don. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to Sean.
No, it's a real pleasure, but where have you been?
I've been in the States.
Oh, I see. Seen your grandson.
I've been over to my grandsons again, and I divide the time up between. It's good to hear the regular team again. You know, I've missed too many programs. I look as if I'm going to be spending more time in America.
Well, that's all good. And in regards to your grandson, he's a keen listener of the programme.
Right, okay then. Yeah, it's about DC United. They were in the Copa Sudamericana this year, and I wondered how they acquitted themselves.
Okay. They were knocked out in the first round by Chivas USA, or I'm sorry, by Chivas, not Chivas USA, but Chivas de Guadalajara of Mexico.
I do apologise to CJ in Dundee, who's got his strop on, because he says, is your phone in tonight, excluding European and world football this week, because us Scots are about to overtake England in the FIFA rankings when we beat Italy and qualify. We will send you a postcard. You can do that if you want, CJ. I haven't got a problem with that, but not tonight. Thank you for giving us this fantastic programme, says Nicholas. I'm very curious to know why such programmes don't go on air during the day for the wide public. We need it. Well, it wouldn't be up all night, would it? I'd just like to tell Sean there is nothing wrong with conference football. This is from Ben in York, Sean. There is nothing wrong with it.
I like conference football. I actually saw Basingstoke Town play, and I really enjoyed myself about 3 years ago. I adore conference football. It's just below the standard of MLS, just like MLS is below the standard of Premiership football.
Of course, fair enough. Max
but conference football's great. It really is. It's all body types welcome.
Absolutely. Let's go back to Max in Doncaster's the question. Remind us what the question was, Max, please.
Yeah, DC United were in the Copa Sudamericana, and I understand they were knocked out. They played Guadalajara, the real Chivas club. And I wondered how they acquitted themselves in the 2 games. They were quite close by all accounts.
Yeah, Max, and again, it's great to hear from you. I'm glad you enjoyed your time seeing your grandson in my country. And when you are there, please listen to us at bbc.co.uk. DC United were in 5 competitions this year, and actually 6 if you want to count the Major League Soccer playoffs as a separate competition. The MLS campaign, the U.S. Open Cup, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the Superliga, and the Copa Sudamericana. And what I really admire about DC United, why they have more trophies than any other club in Major League Soccer history, they take every single match with the utmost seriousness. They did very well despite losing in the first round to CD Guadalajara. Again, for a point of clarification, Chivas means goats in Spanish. Now, CD Guadalajara are also called Chivas, which is more their nickname. It would be like calling Arsenal, referring to them as the Gunners, for instance.
Right.
They're the main club. They're one of the biggest clubs in all of Latin America, of course, based in Mexico. Their under club, almost like a little sister or little brother club, is Chivas USA. Same man owns them, Jorge Vergara, and they operate in Major League Soccer. CD Guadalajara is a fantastic side. I know Tim has a chance to see them when they take on South American squads. DC United won the first leg at home 2-1, which was a great result, and not a bad result in Guadalajara, a very difficult place to play. DC United lost 1-0, so it was 2-2 on aggregate, but with the away goal rule, DC United were eliminated, but they really acquitted themselves well.
Well, on my last trip in early September, I went to the Home Depot ground in LA, and I saw DC United play Chivas USA, and it was a 2-2 draw. And I like the Chivas team. I like the atmosphere around them. But a guy there told me that they just sacked the general manager, Chivas, because of poor attendance. Is that true?
That's exactly right. This has been something that's really been, I think, a tough situation for Jorge Vergara, who's a multi-billionaire in Mexico. Chivas has the brand name similar to, I would say, Manchester United is fair. You either love them or you hate them, but you probably have a feeling about them. They're undisputed. I don't know if we have any Mexican listeners who may complain, but I'll stand by this. They're undisputed, the biggest club in Mexican football. And by bringing the Chivas USA brand, the idea was that people who support Chivas are automatically going to support Chivas USA. And there is a massive Mexican and Mexican-American population in Los Angeles. Ticket prices have been fairly high. Obviously, Major League Soccer is not Mexican football. It's close in standard. It's completely different in the style of play. And a lot of the Chivas de Guadalajara supporters just have not been paying their money to see in person at Home Depot Center in Los Angeles, Chivas USA. So, indeed, that's right. The general manager was sacked, but that's the off-the-pitch problems. On the pitch, they've been great. They have the number 1 seed out of the Western Conference playoffs. A former Everton and Portsmouth midfielder, Preki, also a former U.S. international, is their manager. They have really done well for themselves, and I think it's just a matter of time. One thing that I did not like, and if you'll remember, Dotun, we talked about this on the program a couple of years ago, Max, and if you'll remember this too, is that the original intent of Chivas USA was that they would only have Latin players. And Chivas de Guadalajara, Chivas in Mexico, is famous, and I would say notorious because I don't like it, for only having Mexican players. They're very proud of that. Well, that might work in a country like Mexico, but in a nation of inclusion like the United States, that really rubs Americans the wrong way. I really buy into the melting pot theory of my country. I say everyone is welcome to come in, and to say we're going to exclude rather than include, that just didn't sit well with me. It didn't sit well with a lot of football journalists, and it didn't sit well with a lot of supporters. So there were people in Los Angeles who maybe supported the Galaxy, that were ready to support a new club, and they were, because they were white or they were black or they were Asian, they were essentially told, stay away, we only want Hispanics, and that hurt the fan base. Now, Chivas USA has done a good job since then of correcting it, but they're still trying to dig out from that mistake a little bit. It's just simply a cultural shift. What is very, very good in Mexico is just really, really bad in the U.S.
Well, you surprised me about the manager, because they signed a hotshot American guy, didn't they?
Well, that's right, and Bob Bradley did so well there that he got them into the postseason. They were bottom of the table their first ever campaign, their first year of existence, 2005. Bob Bradley came in, got them into the postseason last year. He then assumed the U.S. job when Bruce Arena was sacked after last summer's World Cup, and his assistant, Preki, then took over as the manager. And we were talking earlier about I get the vote for the top awards in Major League Soccer as a journo over here, and I voted for Preki as Manager of the Year. I think he's done just a spectacular job. It's a side with very good talent, and everybody has overachieved, and that to me is the sign of a great manager.
Yeah, they look very solid at the back, but there were a couple of guys playing for DC United that caught my eye. Luciano Emilio and Moreno. What nationality are they?
Luciano Emilio is Brazilian. And, Tim, I want you to pick up on this because I'm curious if he's known in Brazil. He won the Golden Boot this year, 20 goals to lead all scorers in Major League Soccer. I don't even think that he's ever factored at any level, even in a regional, international level for any of the regional state sides, Tim, but he has been just a phenomenal star. If it weren't for Juan Pablo Angel and Cuauhtemoc Blanco and David Beckham, this would be the footballer everybody would be talking about in any other year. Jaime Moreno is a long-time Major League Soccer player. He's been in the league since 1996. He actually came on a free transfer from Middlesbrough to DC United in 1996, also played for New York, then back to DC United, and a long-time Bolivian international. But Tim, Luciano Amilo, does anyone know who he is in Brazil?
He's just beginning to get some coverage in the sports press because of what he's done in the States. But before that, for anything that he did in Brazilian football before, no, he's an unknown.
He really shone against DC United and against Chivas, rather, for DC United, and he really impressed me.
And, you're seeing two clubs there that I would say, DC United and Chivas USA, that this year could go into the championship. I don't think they would gain a promotion spot, but I certainly think they would stave off relegation. I think it could realistically finish in the top 14.
I took great exception to some of those remarks about the standard of play in America. I think they're very competitive, the league.
I should say that James in Newcastle has texted us back, not wanting to give the wrong impression. He didn't really say that they were completely useless, but that on a bad day, the standard can be confused with the Sunday league games. And he was saying he doesn't mean to demean the sport in the US, but he was just voicing caution over ever mentioning it in the same breath as our beloved Premiership, Max.
No, well, yeah. I mean, I watched a couple of the games with Beckham playing, and he's taken on a lot in America. There's no easy ride for Beckham now. Those sides really. I mean, I watched Chivas playing them, and they gave him a rough time. And I think Beckham's going to have to take it really seriously. I think he will take it seriously, but it's not going to be a cakewalk for him. It's not some form of easy retirement for him.
You jet setters, you can see games on both sides of the Atlantic.
Dotun, I just want to answer one more of Max's questions. The program that I do with the Kansas City Wizards and U.S. defender Jimmy Conrad, you can only hear that on radio in the American Midwest on a frequency called 97.3 FM.
I'm in Oregon. Will I be able to get it?
You can go online to the Major League Soccer website, and they archive all of the programs and stream the radio show live in a simulcast. If you go to MLSnet.com, which is Major League Soccer's website, MLSnet.com, you then go onto the video audio tab, and then you scroll down. You'll eventually come to a photo of Jimmy Conrad and myself smiling back at you, and that's where they have all the programs archived.
Okay, Max, thanks very much for that. Jim in Newport, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to ask Tim Vickery a question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about Spurs, because I'm a fan as well. Last season or the season before, I can't remember exactly, you mentioned on the program there, and I've seen some on TV, where the referees in South America, Brazil or Argentina, they were blowing some spray down on the floor to mark up as the game went on that the players must get beyond that mark to go 10 yards from a free kick and so on. And I believe it was an experiment. And how far did it go, or did it go? Is it still going on? And could we have it in world football? Because the former referee myself, I think that's because many a dispute, as you've seen, where they've not gone 10 yards back and they've had to take the free kick again. What's happened to that? Do you know, please?
Yeah, it's not an experiment in Brazilian football. It's a permanent feature of the Brazilian league. When the free kick is awarded, the referee first he marks the spot where the free kick should be taken, and then he paces out the 10 yards and puts the line there. And it's a terrific move. I can't for the life of me imagine why it hasn't been taken up more widely, because it does mean that the team that has suffered the foul get full value from the free kick. Sometimes you read in the international press kind of almost joking remarks about it, saying that it destroys the pitch. That doesn't seem to be the case. That the spray seems to be good. I think it's an excellent move, and I can't imagine why this is taking so long to be picked up outside Brazil.
Okay, it's in a pub the other night, and all right, I'm 62-year-old now, ex-referee and so on, but all the blokes were taking the mickey, as you say, and they had no idea where it was coming from. That's the problem. A lot of the players don't know, and people was ask a person how many laws in the game of football and what's law 5.
Jim, you are responsible for the fact that I never ever say any more rules of the game. You picked me up on that. You said it's not rules, it's laws. So since then, every time I've referred to it, I've always thought of you and remembered that it's laws of the game.
And law 5, law 17, this is what I try and tell the lads in the pub when we're talking, like, I said there's 17 laws, and the most important law is law 5, the referee. They go, what? And then I go home and bring me book in the next day, and they go, shut up, you. You know, Phil? Yeah, well, anyway, thanks for this. I haven't heard it for a while because I haven't been well.
Sounds like you spend a lot of time in the pub with the guys.
No, and only when there's... I don't drink. I haven't been very well, and I haven't touched alcohol for 12 months, so I don't drink. I just go into... when the big games are on, if I want to watch a decent game, I'll watch it in the pub with the boys. But I get a lot of stick because I used to be a referee and everybody remembers me and hates me. But who cares? I was always right. The law says so.
Jim, if I may, I think you really appreciate this. Major League Soccer, of course, a number of the pitches are shared by American football teams.
Yes, I understand.
High school, college, and NFL. The last 2 weeks on U.S. television, I've done match commentary where they have the American football markings on the football pitch. I was at Giant Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey, for New York Red Bulls. Yeah. Then last week I was in Dallas at Dotton's favorite place, Pizza Hut Park. Yeah. What I find absolutely mystifying, and I said this on national television in both, I didn't mean to show up the referee, but when a free kick is awarded, the yards are marked out because they have the American football markings. So if the free kick is at the 32-yard line, it's not difficult to see that the wall needs to be at the 22-yard line because it's marked out. Yeah. And 100% of the time, they still cannot set the wall back 10 yards. I just find that mystifying, stupefying. It's actually marked right there.
We used to have arguments years ago. I started refereeing in late 60s, early 70s, and done it till the 80s. I was in the army, had a bad injury and had to give up. I'm now disabled and so on. I broke my back in a skiing accident, but I'm able to walk about now, just about. But
glad to hear that.
I could still referee a match today.
At least it's not with those old leather pigskin footballs or whatever anymore. Jim, thanks very much for that. Just on that note, very quickly from David, once said, have any of the North or South American leagues ever tried referees with microphones? Jim?
Well, as kind of link up with the linesman or the referee's assistant.
Well, no, I don't know which one, whether it's a link up, but I suspect it's microphones for TV consumption.
Oh yes, no, that's been done over here, and it's then played out on national TV, and people are always shocked with the things that the players say to the referees.
Of course, and Sean, has it happened in the States?
You know, that's amazing that they've allowed it in Brazil. Dr. Joe Machnik, who's one of the finest people I know in football in the United States, oversees referees for Major League Soccer. They're assigned by the United States Soccer Federation, but Machnik oversees them for MLS. And every single year, he has tried to get them to wear microphones because he feels that it would enhance television, and yet it's FIFA who strikes that down. FIFA does not want the referees, and I guess I can understand their point, to wear microphones, because we should have asked Jimmy Conrad when he's on again. Just ask him about the things that footballers say to referees. That's certainly not for family viewing time.
Listen, sorry to rush it on, but we've got a call. This is a first for the World Football phone-in from David in El Salvador. Blow me over with a feather, David. El Salvador, really?
Yes, that's right. How are you?
I'm very well. I hope you've reversed the charges, at least.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because you've been waiting for a while, and I do apologise for your waiting.
No problem.
But, did you kick off? You take it away, mate.
Okay, well, I had a question for Sean and Tim, actually, which refers a little bit back to what they were talking earlier about the Copa Sudamericana. Incidentally, Chivas, who beat DC United, lost last night at home to Arsenal. But what's interesting is that, of course, the Mexican clubs and North American clubs playing in a South American competition. They had a little bit of trouble, interesting refereeing over the years until last year when Pachuca won the Sudamericana. I'm wondering how Sean and Tim feel, how long before a Mexican club finally breaks through and wins the more prestigious Libertadores?
Sean?
I think it's just a matter of time. The wages are often higher than what's paid in Argentina, what's paid in Brazil, certainly what's paid in Major League Soccer. There are some great footballers. For the most part, Mexico does an outstanding job of keeping just about all of their top internationals at home, and they're starting to become an import league. Not just are they a non-export league, but they're a legitimate import league now, bringing in footballers from the Caribbean and from South America, not yet from Europe or really from North America, the U.S. or Canada, but I could see it happening in the next 2 or 3 years. It wouldn't shock me at all. I look at a club like Chivas de Guadalajara, and I think that they're one of the finest in this hemisphere.
Tim?
Yeah, well, Chivas weren't too good last night, and losing 3-1 at home to Arsenal. But I agree. I think it's a matter of time. And I think David has made a very interesting point there about the refereeing, because one of the reasons that it hasn't happened so far, and Cruz Azul came very close. It was 2001. They lost on penalties to Boca Juniors after winning in Argentina, which was a fantastic result. But one of the reasons that it hasn't happened or hasn't become closer to happening has been the referees, because the Mexican clubs are in an interesting position in the Libertadores. They're guests. And if they win, they don't go on to represent South America in the World Club competition, which is now held annually in Japan. So there's an atmosphere, I think, within South America that the guests are supposed to come, bring their money, and that's why they're in it. They're in the competition because of the money, because of the access to the Mexican market. They're supposed to come in, bring their money, and not overstay their welcome like good guests, and not go all the way. So there have been one or two cases where I think the refereeing has been absolutely scandalous against the Mexican teams, and perhaps as the Mexicans stay, and it's only been, since 1998 that they've been involved in the competition, perhaps the longer they stay, the less chance there is of that happening as people get more used to their presence.
Yeah, I think I don't know if Tim or Sean remembers the 2005 Sudamericana finals, Boca and Pumas, but the referee team was changed on the day of the game. The rules were changed on the day of the game. There was the keeper brought down a player outside the box and handled the ball, and it was quite. And I think that's really it was so that sort of culminated. It was so blatant. For the following year, it was a lot clearer, and Pachuca, of course, won, and that was a fine side, that Pachuca team. So I agree. Obviously, this year they didn't do too well. America threw in the Sudamericana again to the semis, and that brings me on to a point you were saying earlier about Cuauhtémoc Blanco in the MLS, and how Sean said there wasn't too many expectations, but a player like Blanco really shining so brightly in the MLS gives an indication of the level that it's at the moment, especially within his region. A couple of weeks ago, Sean, I think you said that Costa Rica was kind of behind Mexico in the MLS. I'd sort of put it differently and say that MLS and Costa Rica are behind Mexico. I don't know if you'd sort of agree that there's still that level between the MLS and the Mexican League.
I think that the Mexican League, day in and day out, is superior to Major League Soccer. I would say the same for Major League Soccer above Costa Rican football. I look at Costa Rica. Yeah. They're really limited to some big clubs, namely Alajuelense and Saprissa, although there have been some other clubs that have come on.
Saprissa is also owned by Jorge Vergara that you were talking of.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. A multi-billionaire in the vitamin business and now in the football business as well. No, I do think the Mexican football is at a better standard day in and day out. Not that some Major League Soccer clubs couldn't do very well in the Mexican First Division, and some Mexican sides would certainly struggle in Major League Soccer. Chivas USA, their first year in 2005, finished bottom of the table. Jorge Vergara arrogantly basically just brought in his young players and brought in his reserves, and they were a miserable side, maybe the worst side ever in Major League Soccer history. Mexican football, though, is so different, I think, from Major League Soccer, and Blanco has been able to adapt brilliantly. I think the expectations were so low for Cuauhtémoc Blanco, aside from the fact that he's 34 years old. In Major League Soccer, time and time again, has been burned by footballers. Lothar Matthäus, Chris Woods, Bronco, just to name three, who have come over after their 30th birthday, who look like they're in America simply for a suntan and a paycheck. But also Blanco coming in and with his style of football, because he needs space and he wants to keep the ball at his feet, and it just seemed like he wouldn't have time. He has been spectacular. I did a match with Blanco, I believe, in September on American television, and he played a ball through to Chad Barrett, and I thought at the time, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody in Major League Soccer, including the great Roberto Donadoni or Carlos Valderrama, who could have played that ball. He has been absolutely spectacular. Had he been in for a full campaign, I think he would clearly be the footballer of the year, but since he came in August, he'll probably finish second or third in that voting.